You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Beans and Dice podcast, live board game call-in show Thursday night. I'm Carlos, and I'm quite alone. Am I alone? I'm alone. Is it just me? Yep, checked all the cameras. It's just me. It's just me. This week, it's just me. Rob's out of town. He's at a golf tournament. He might call in later. I know William and I spoke earlier today. He wasn't going to be able to make it tonight. So it's going to be Carlos's show, running it solo today, talking about board games, board game news, things you've been buying, things you've been playing. I'm going to open up the phone line. 813-618-7099 is the phone number on the phone line. Call in, talk to me about what you're playing. Other than that, what I'm going to do is try something a little different. I've got some news articles that I put together to talk about, things that interest me, things that I might share with you and you might have any interest in. You can call in and talk to me about. So we'll hopefully get some phone calls in. Awesome.
Sure.
I'm hearing that I froze a little bit. Y'all in the comments, let me know if it's unstuck. Hopefully it's unstuck now. But Patrick and I were talking about Mission Red Planet.
You're unstuck now. You're unstuck now. I think there's a little bit of a time lag, so I'm going to turn off my speaker here so we don't get any echoing. Some other games I've really been getting into. Scythe, I've been playing a lot of that online. In particular, Nick Oben from Wesley Chapel Gamers taught us that, and it was a blast. It's been on my shelf of shame for a long, long time, and I finally got the nerve to play it. I was intimidated by it, but it's not so bad, and I've gotten even to the point where I can play it and even teach it to some folks and break out my big Deluxified set. So that's really a blast.
Oh, wow. So you got the Deluxified set sitting on a Shelf of Shame. So it's like Shelf of Shame exponential.
Oh, yeah. It was the collector's edition from the Kickstarter and, with the expanded board and all that kind of great stuff. And, yes, definitely my Shelf of Shame is much more than I would like to admit. But we're working on it. We are working on it now that I'm retired. I got a lot more time to try to clear that up. So.
Well, congratulations. Making it to retirement is a huge achievement. Like that's life goal right there.
Oh, yeah. And some of the other games I've been playing lately are Petrichor. Again, I did a Kickstarter Deluxified version on that, and it is amazing. It's got so much content. I've just scratched the surface on that one, but it's really cool. Petrichor, the sweet smell of the soil after the fresh rain. It's your rain clouds trying to make crops grow, and it's a lot of fun. And there's ability to take that on that too. It's not quite as friendly as the theme would suggest. And
that one was interesting to me. In what they titled it, to me, I think was the most interesting part. That's a word that I've never heard of before.
Right. I'd never heard of it either. It's like, okay, it drew me in there. It's a beautiful game. That's the basic game. I got the Deluxified with all of the expansions, the flowers and the bees and the cows and all that stuff. And those little cardboard things for the clouds. No, I have the floating clouds. So the Deluxified version, you got to check that out. It is so much prettier, and it's a ton of fun. And everybody I've taught it to just loves the game. We did play some rules wrong the first time, but it's a blast. It really is a lot of fun.
What's the main mechanism of the game? Like how does it play?
Oh God, it's an area majority game. You want to have the most raindrops on any particular crop. It's action selection. You get to decide what you want to do. You also have to vote on what events you want to have happen in the second phase of the game. There's the first phase where you're just kind of playing your cards. It's a little bit of hand management in that regard. You place based on the weather system. You can put out clouds. You can put out raindrops. You can move clouds around. You can make them rain. Clouds can turn into thunderclouds. They can merge together. That's in the first part of the game. And the second part of the game is based on which two weather patterns had the most votes. That determines what weather events are going to happen in the second phase of the game. And you can get majority on that. When you score the various tiles, the scoring on the tile is based on majority and rank order. And there's some strange ones where second place is actually better than first place. The corn is like, I believe it's the corn. No, but there's one of them that's like that. Potatoes maybe, where second place is better than third place or first place. So it's weird. But it's a beautiful game. And again, if you get, what you're seeing here is the basic components. The deluxified version has so much cooler stuff. It doesn't change the nature of the gameplay at all, except for by giving you the expansions. But the quality of the components is just so much better.
I like the aesthetics. I like how they went with the white as the background. Really makes the art pop. It stands out. It's not too cluttered. It seems like it's going to be easy to understand what you're looking at.
Yeah, if you go back, you stop here on the picture with the clouds. They normally are just like little cardboard containers that sit on the floor, sit on the tiles. But they're up in the sky. So what some people have done is you take those little pizza box tables.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
That's exactly what those are, and they raise the clouds up so you can see what raindrops are already on the ground. The other one has a little same idea, but it does it a little bit more elegantly. So I've taught that one to several people, and I've never had anybody say this game sucks. It's just an amazing game.
Well, this is a game that I've heard of, and I've seen about it. But Pat, you're the first person to call in and actually talk about Petrichor. Petrichor.
Petrichor.
Yes. So I'm glad you called in about it, because it's one that interested me, but nobody else had brought it up in the group ever. So you're the first in the group to bring it up.
Well, YT has Archer has a copy of it in the shop. They just have like the basic level. And like I say, I'm going to be playing this game for a long time because of all of the different modules you can add to it. With like cows putting out methane, cow farts. Haven't gone to that one yet, but that's going to add a different layer of climate change to the game. And let's see, I've also been bringing out an old classic. This one goes all the way back to 1996. Called Kill Dr. Lucky.
Oh yeah, that's a throwback.
Yeah, it's a fun game. Again, I think Robert may have been played that with us. It's just so much fun where you get to go around and like all the pent up frustrations, you get to unleash on the poor doctor who's done you wrong in the past. And there's a lot going on in the game. And again, it's pretty cool. The last game I really saw on my radar right now is Orleans. Again, a classic. I'm sure you're familiar with it, right? The
Robert
game.
It's probably one of Robert's top 5 Orleans. So I have played it with him multiple times. It's one of his favorite bag builders. And we're actually planning on playing it in 2 weeks. Our spring break comes in 2 weeks. And Robert and I are both staying in New Orleans for a board game convention over in Lafayette. We're going to meet up with Mitch. So Robert and I decided we're going to bring Orleans, and we will play Orleans in New Orleans.
Excellent. How meta.
That's the plan. We're going to get real meta with it. Yeah.
I'm going to be doing a little teach on that on Saturday at the New River Public Library with some folks who want to learn it. So we're going to get some more people involved with that. So yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, I'm not so sure, but it kind of grew on me. So yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful game. So it's not going to be one of my children I'm going to get rid of at the flea market on the 13th. 13th, is it?
Yes, the 13th. I plan on being there as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of my shelves and like, okay, this I don't play that much. It's a great game, but yeah, and I've got several that are out of print. So I've got a table, and I'm going to hopefully be selling some stuff, and hopefully not buying too much. At least my wife's hoping I'm not buying too much. hopefully the cash flow goes.
I'm going to come back with more games than I left with.
Yeah, that's a threat I have to protect myself against. So, but basically, that's kind of what I want to talk about today. And again, we're trying to get this local game group going for the East Pasco area. Basically, we've had some people come up as far as from down in Tampa a little bit, and if you can make it to Zephyr Hills, definitely try out the ice cream. The ice cream there is amazing. Sarah, Dan, and Katie and Antonio and the Game Gurus are just fantastic people, the friendliest folks you've ever met. And I know you've been felt very welcome when you were there.
Yes,
and,
we've known Dan long before Your Turn was a thing, when we were just gaming together. And Dan's a great guy. Sarah's awesome, and what they've got going on in Zephyr Hills is just amazing. We do our second Saturday game day every other month out of Your Turn, and it's always a hit. It's a great setup that they have. They're family friendly, easy because of the access to food, drinks, and board games. It just makes it easy.
Yeah, it is. So, well, thanks for talking to me.
No, thanks for calling, man. I without Rob here and without William here, I need people to chime in and share, and I appreciate you stepping up and having that call with me. Check them out on Your Turn at Your Turn.
It's Our Turn.
Our Turn.
At Our Turn at Your Turn.
On Facebook, the Facebook group with the meetups with Pat.
And right. And I do have a link. If they come to your Beans and Dice Facebook page, I've got links to it on there. I put links to it everywhere because I'm really trying to get some interest going here because I want to make sure that Your Turn succeeds because it's been a godsend for me in terms of a resource.
Agreed. Well, have a good evening. Thanks for calling.
Have a great night. Bye.
Now it's Pat Conley out of Zephyr Hills, Florida, gamer from the Your Turn area, the Your Turn Board Game Cafe. Let's go through some of the chats. We got Bryson says, hey Bryson, I see you here just about every week. Appreciate you jumping in. Ron Frazier pops in and says, solo games with the solo guy. I'm not a huge solo gamer, but I got a call here. It looks like it's Mitch. Say hi, Mitch.
Hey, I didn't get to introduce myself. Come on. I'm Mitchell from Louisiana. There, I got to start with that.
Solo games for you, Mitchell?
Solo games?
Yeah,
no,
Ron's talking about solo games. Me being solo, I should get some solo games in. It's not my thing either.
Yeah, I got to have somebody that I can just smash into the ground. It doesn't feel as good whenever I'm just doing it to AI. 7 minutes. That is the good thing about solo games is you could breeze through them. Man, some of the games I've played of Scythe Digital, the game might be over in 5 or 10 minutes, the entire game, because you could set the AI turns to happen within a couple seconds. So I do like that part of it.
What have you been up to?
Well, I promised last week I'd call back in with a report on Arc Nova. I didn't realize Rob wasn't going to be here because he was the one I think that was a little bit more interested in it.
Oh, we're both hyped. I got my pre-order in. I'm hyped because, I'm a huge fan of Terraforming Mars. I really like games about science or biology, so I have Evolution, right? So I feel like that's going to be a cool mix. I don't see anything wrong with this game. What'd you think?
Well, did you guys end up getting it played at you? Or did somebody have it in your group or something last Friday? Wasn't someone supposed to bring it?
Your Turn actually has it now in their library. So if you're in the Tampa Bay area, over Your Turn Board Game Cafe in Zephyr Hills has a copy of Arc Nova already there, ready to go.
Okay, but you guys didn't get a chance to play it?
No. Rob said he got there late, and being that it's a longer game, they weren't going to get it started.
Yeah, so, okay, it was billed, advertised to me as Terraforming Mars with a different theme, which I wasn't super excited about that concept, because it's if it's the exact same as Terraforming Mars, why not just play Terraforming Mars? But it is definitely a different game, just with some shared mechanics. So we played a 4-player game, one person had played it, 2 of us are pretty hardcore gamers, and the 4th person is kind of newer to the hobby, but we've all played, a good bit of games, and the teach and setup and the game itself took almost 5 hours, which I thought was just insane. And the thing is, my friend who taught it to us, he has said that even though he's played it several times, it's usually at least 3 hours or so. So it'll get a little bit faster, but still a lot of time.
How many players did you play?
At 4.
4. And that's the max, right?
I believe so. Don't quote me on that, but I believe so. So the thing is, the mechanics, I think, are fairly solid. But, it's kind of got that Rogers Laganges thing where once 2 of your paths connect, that triggers the end of the game. But, I'm sure you've seen pictures of the board. It's a long, thin board. So, like, one of the tracks is 100-something spaces. I don't know how many it is. In my opinion, it takes way too long for those to intersect. Now, there are some engine-building aspects where you have to have, several rounds to get that engine going to really do what you want to do. So I understand it's got to have some length to it. But I felt like my engine was built maybe halfway through that time frame, and I was just running the engine over and over and over again, just trying to get them to intersect. I was doing everything I could to hit that in-game trigger. That's what I do. I accelerate. And I was the one who triggered the in-game when you win.
Okay.
There's like a delta, the difference between the two, and there were some in-game points. But I just feel like if that track were 50% as long, I would still get everything I needed out of that game without it driving me into the ground with its length.
Now, my understanding from what I've researched on the game that got me a little hyped, that 2-track system has to do with, one, the attention that your zoo gets. So, like, the getting people to come into the zoo. That's one set of points that goes around the board. And the other set of points has to do with, like, the conservation work that you do. Is that
Correct.
about accurate?
Yeah, so I think one's a conservation track, one is I don't know the word for it, but yeah, it's like the people wanting to come to your zoo. I think it's maybe like how many people actually come.
Yeah.
The main mechanic that I remember that's kind of tied into that conservation is you can let animals go. It's
Yes.
kind of like these global objectives. If you have X number of this type of animal or X number of animals from this continent, you can let them go, and like they might lose their passive abilities, but you keep the points from it or something like that. And there are a few other ways to go up that conservation track as well. Yes.
Now, it's the way I understood it, it's supposed to make it feel like there's like 2 phases of this game, where you're building this zoo and you're bringing animals in, and then there's the other part of that once you get your zoo in a good place, you now begin the conservation work of like letting animals go, and that's when the 2 will intersect. Did you get that feeling? Did that come through?
No. Maybe if that's the way that you're focusing, but there's so many different things to do that, I did a little bit of everything, kind of trying to push all the buttons to see how they work. And it definitely felt like they were different phases. It all felt like one very long over and over and over again thing. The main mechanic, the action selection system, is everybody has the same 5 actions.
You're
and
right.
you have this player board. What's that?
Right. It's like 5 action cards that you start in, like the basic actions.
Right. And so whenever you do an action, you move it all the way to the left and all the other ones move up. And so whenever it's at the top, all the way to the right, it's at its highest power up to a power of 5. And so you kind of want to wait to use them until they're high up, but it's all about optimizing. And then you have this currency you can use to increase their power even more. But throughout the game, you get opportunities to flip those cards over to their kind of upgraded side. So if anything, that would feel like kind of a second phase of the game once you have a lot of your cards flipped, because you can do more with each turn. But the conservation didn't seem like a big part of it to me, but maybe it's just because I didn't focus on that part of it.
And that could be something that you would pick up as you play more, as you learn the game better. Because you did mention you're doing more of like testing a lot of different things out. And in some games, that never works well, right? You either got to focus on a few small things, but if you try to do a little bit of everything, won't that usually slow you down?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, with the first play, part of the experience could be just figuring things out. Like going into it, I understood the mechanics. Of course, I had no idea how to win, but I lost. Oh yeah, the conservation thing. In my personal opinion, I didn't focus on those because I didn't want to lose those passive abilities. Some of them were very good. There are other global objectives where it just has X number of animals, and I kind of geared more toward those because I got to keep their abilities, but I think it was maybe lower victory points for those.
What about the pens? I'm curious about how the tile placement aspect, the hexagonal tile placement aspect played. Is it like a tapestry where it's a side thing for the city and it doesn't feel important, or is it crucial?
So yeah, it is a sideboard. So that's if people are going and expecting Terraforming Mars, everybody has their own Mars in this case. Your own zoo. It did feel important to do that. I feel like I was interacting with that a lot. One of your actions is to build. Another of your actions is to put animals in those pens. You have to have the pens first to put the animals in them. And based on kind of like the size of animal, you have to make sure you have a certain size pen. But you get a bunch of points for just having every space covered in your zoo. And that felt important to me. So I kind of focused on that. And again, I'm not saying that was the right thing to do, but I had tons of pens with no animals in them. And it was weird that it incentivized me to fill it up, but not necessarily to get animals. Of course, I would have gotten more points because you get points when you play animals. But by the end of the game, I had spent so much time building this big zoo, I just didn't have the time or the resources to fill it all in. But I was still getting points for that, which felt strange.
Okay, so it not as crucial as I would like it to be, but important.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. So you have those two tracks, and then you have this track. I don't know what it's called. It's like a little like a scholarship track or something that, like, until you're at a certain space on that track, you can't do other actions. There's just so many tracks. There's so much going on that I feel like
tracks on tracks on tracks on tracks.
Yeah. If you split this game in two, you have two solid good games. But it's just so much, and I think that's why it takes so long, because turns, in theory, shouldn't take a long time. It's like, hey, I'm activating this card and doing this ability. But it's like, this triggers that, triggers that, triggers that. And it's too much, in my opinion. And I like heavy games.
Right.
But this one didn't really hit for me.
I'm sad to hear that, but I don't know. Well, you and I haven't always met up eye to eye on games, so I'm not gonna let you tamp my excitement. Like I'm all in.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting great reviews. I feel like 99% of the reviews I hear those that it's too long. Nick brought up a good point in the Discord saying, like, hey, I know you're willing to play a game for 4 or 5 hours or multiple games. Is it just the one game thing you don't like? And kind of like what I said a while ago, I don't mind if one game lasts that long. I've played plenty of games that last that long. But if it's just this trudge of doing the same thing over and over with no value added from the extra time, I'd rather play 4 games in that time, So I don't know. It's very subjective, obviously. Some people might prefer that aspect of it. My buddy who owns it, he loves it. He plays it every couple of days. He and his wife bang one out. So of course, I'm sure it's faster with 2 people.
That's the other piece that we didn't talk about. So the Tom Vassell and I think Samantha in the chat talks about it, where she says I've been dying to try this because it took Tom Vassell's #1 spot in his top 100 list, right? So that's what Sam was talking about.
Yeah, I think he called it like a game of the year already.
Yes, he did for him, his #1 game. But he gives it that rule, that viticulture rule, like never more than 3. 2, great. 3, that's your top limit. And I think Robert and I already made that decision on Terraforming Mars. Like, we are done playing Terraforming Mars at 4 or more players. We're done. It's just going to be 3 or less.
And this is a game where, so whenever certain actions are done, it moves up this another track, or like a break track or something. Like whenever you take a break, you get income. And so whenever you get income, you can start doing more things. To my knowledge, the only difference for less players is that break track is shorter. So the 2 tracks that have to intersect don't change with more or less players. So, of course, if half as many people are taking turns, theoretically, you should go about twice as fast. There's no other scaling there. So maybe it's better at 2.
Well, I will let you know when Robert and I get to play it. I think my copy releases sometime around March 15th-ish. Should be delivered March 17th. I'm hoping to have it before I head out. That way Robert and I can play it at the hotel in New Orleans.
Yeah, maybe we'll play it together. I don't know if I want to play the game again, but regardless.
There you go. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple
of weeks. Have a good solo show. Yeah, I'm excited too. 2 to 3 weeks away for Sobo. It's getting close.
So fast. It came up so fast.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, Mitch and I will be recording our podcast tonight after this. So look for Sunday. Mitch and I will have another episode of our podcast that we're doing up and delivered to you because tonight we're going to stay up late and make our recording. Check us out on your local podcast streaming services, Beans and Dice Podcast, where Mitchell and Carlos talk about board games and other topics. It seems like Mitchell is like a treasure trove of topic ideas. Every time we get together each week, he's like, hey, let's do this. I'm like, perfect. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I enjoyed doing it. So hopefully the listeners out there enjoyed as well.
Have a good night, Mitchell.
Okay, you too. Bye.
That's Mitchell Prudhomme from New Iberia, Louisiana. Phone lines open, 813-618-7099. Let's get back into some of these chats in here. Thank you all for letting me know I was frozen. I had no idea. So Wayne and Raph and Diego, thanks for letting me know so that I can get it fixed. We've got Raph saying no Rob, no Carlos. I'm here. I am here. The freeze was fixed. Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
I am Ness. I'm calling from Syracuse, New York, the Salt City.
Ness, thanks for calling.
Yeah.
I think this is our first New York phone call.
Oh, my God, really?
Yeah. We've had Ohio, we've had Virginia and Maryland, but not that far.
Wow. I went to the Dice Tower retreat in Orlando. I heard you guys were there.
Yes, we were. Robert and I were out there enjoying it. I had a blast at the DTR. I'm sad that they're not redoing the Orlando one.
Yeah, me too, because that's close to my grandparents. That was my first Dice Tower convention type thing at all. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Dice Tower group. Robert and I have been going for years to Dice Tower East, so the Orlando one. And when they said the Dice Tower retreat in Orlando, we're like, okay, we got to go. But now that it's moved to Miami, or back to Miami where it originally was. But we still get Dice Tower East, so I'm not sure if you're going to make it down for that 4th of July week, I think it is.
Not for East, but my partner. I got two partners, but I talk about my partner and my girlfriend. So my partner and I are going down for the Miami retreat. So that's going to be great.
Oh, you're doing it. Like you got hooked in.
Yeah. Yeah, on the 9th, they're sending out those invites for the Orlando retreat veterans. So
yeah, we get like second swipe at it. So for y'all folks that don't know, if you've ever gone to a Dice Tower retreat, which is a much smaller group, it's like maybe 200 tickets for a Dice Tower retreat. If you've ever gone to a Dice Tower retreat in Miami, you get first dibs. So I think it was last week they opened it up for the Dice Tower retreat Miami folks. And then after that, we Dice Tower retreat Orlando's get to decide if we want to buy in. I know for certain Robert is buying in, and I'm kind of in iffy because I've got so many different board game events this year. I got to figure out which ones I can and cannot attend. So I think next week we get to jump in there.
Yeah, you should go.
What's up in the gaming world in Syracuse, New York? What is it like?
Believe it or not, we do not have a board game cafe, and I think it's absolutely nuts because we've got like multiple board game stores. We don't have a board game cafe. We got a video game bar. We got TCG Player Warehouse here. We've got like a vibrant Warhammer community, but we don't have like a board game cafe or like we do have, what is it called? Salt City Meeples. And they do every month. They come to like our art supply store and they play board games, and that's pretty fun. But I just got my own small group here. So that's a blast.
Okay. So you're managing a smaller gaming community without a big hosting shop.
Yeah, it's literally just me and like anyone I meet up with who has interest in board games at all. I'm like, you should come to my house and you should play board games.
I'll tell you what, Ness, that's kind of how all this started. The library behind me, this board game table, it very much was, hi, my name's Carlos. I like board games. Do you want to come play? It feels weird.
Yeah, I live in a house that's been split into 3 apartments, and everybody in these apartments that I have ever met who has moved in here or has lived in here has played board games. And it's nuts.
That's beautiful.
Like
sharing it with new folks and watching games that you love be enjoyed through their eyes for the first time. Because these are games that maybe you've played so much, you've put away. There's always so many new games coming out. But then you teach them, I don't know, Small World or something, right? And you're like, God, why do I not play this game anymore? And like, they're loving it.
The first game I learned was my neighbors brought me over to a game of not Terraforming Mars. They have Terraforming Mars. It was, oh my God, I'm blanking out on the name. It was
Describe
Terra Mystica. Yeah,
okay, Terra Mystica. With the, yep. That's a deep one.
Working with us, and I'm like, yeah.
That's a bit deep for getting in the first time.
Like, I'm a hardcore video gamer, so I play a lot of like intense, like really mathy RPGs.
Okay.
So to me, I felt right at home.
Man, it's a great way to get hooked. I've never got into video games, but that's when I met Robert. Robert was into video games. I worked with his wife in the company that we worked at together eventually, and I saw he was into video games. So I kind of tested the waters with that, and it seemed to work. That was like 15, almost 17 years ago.
Yeah, there's surprisingly a lot of crossover between certain aspects of the hobby. Like I think if you like simulation video games, it's not too hard to get into board games.
No, and I like that it's compartmentalized, right? So like with those simulation board games or video games, you're really stuck in for hundreds of hours, right? To really get it right. Whereas we can get one night's game in a good game like a Terraforming Mars 4 or 5 hours, and almost get all the feels of the start, middle, and finish of a larger simulation video game.
It's definitely a different experience, but I also kind of get that same element of like, if I'm playing like a long game of Crusader Kings 3, where you're going through like a whole lineage of characters, as when I would be playing like a single game of Spirit Island, where you're going through like, this is the whole life of this island across the colonization of all of history and whatnot, No,
I'm with you. It's been a great hobby.
Yeah.
Well, too bad I won't be. I don't think I'm going to see you at the Dice Tower in Miami. I think I've got a conflict that's going to hurt that there, but I know Robert will be there. He's going to have the shirt on, and he's going to have some Beans and Dice swag with him. So if you see Robert out there with the Beans and Dice shirt, make sure you say hi. Let him know you were a caller, and he's going to have some swag.
I'll give him a shout out. I'll say hi, and I'm sure we'll be calling it again soon.
And it was Ness, right?
Ness, yeah. I also go by Medical Mechanica in the chat on YouTube.
I see you in there now.
And I occasionally stream on Twitch too, under a different name.
Tell them your channel. Yeah. Tell the folks at home.
It's Infinipede, like infinite millipede.
Infinipede, okay.
Infinipede, yeah.
Infinipede.
No T.
No T.
Yeah.
No T.
I stream like tabletop board games. Like I'll stream like Spirit Island a lot. I stream like Role Player and stuff. So.
And I've been doing the streaming. I guess I'm glad you called. I've been like curious about that whole Twitch thing, right? I'm not tech savvy type guy. I started streaming here on the YouTubes because it was just easy. How do you feel about the difference in the platforms for like a Twitch platform and a YouTube platform when it comes to the tabletop world? I've always looked at Twitch as kind of like a video game world. What do you think?
I don't know. I think with Twitch, there is a small, but it's a kind of interconnected system where I'm like a super small streamer. Like the maximum I've ever gotten on any of my streams for video games or board games is like 10. But you've got people who help each other because you can host other streams on Twitch. So like raid other streams on Twitch. So I'll have been talking to a guy who's been playing Root on his Switch because the Root app released on Switch recently. And I'll be helping him out and I'll be chatting with him about like what he's doing, his strategies against the AI. And then he'll come into my stream where I'm playing tabletop Spirit Island with my cell phone aimed down at the board, and he'll come in with like all the other folks who are watching him stream Root, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I played this game." We're like, "This game is fun," or they might not know it, and I'll be able to like explain it to them, and it's a blast. It's like a really interconnected, smaller community on Twitch for board games.
I think you sold me. I'm gonna have to figure that out because I am all about the community aspect of it. And
You guys got to give it a try. It's fun.
that I will do. Well, thank you for calling and bringing that topic up, because I've been curious about it. Like, I've been trying to figure out why the difference is, what's the world. But the way you described it really makes sense and makes it something that I'm going to figure out how to do.
No problem. You guys have a good time then.
All right, have a good night. Thanks for calling, Ness.
You too.
Bye.
Have a nice night. Bye.
That's New York, Syracuse, New York. So we broke some, added a pin to the map and put me on the idea of Twitch. I'm not sure what you folks at home think about Twitch, but I've been thinking about it, just haven't pulled the trigger on it. Let's check out some comments here. And that was medical mechanica, as she says on the Twitch or in the YouTube comments. So she's in there. She's talking about I've played a 4-hour solo game. I'm not much of a solo gamer myself. I've done a lot of solo wargaming. I think it's my ADD. It kicks in and I just I'm off to something else. Mad props on being able to get into I'm certain, I bet that was Spirit Island maybe, a game that long and playing it solo. Let's continue into the comments here. Medical Mechanica says, when we were talking about Tom and Arc Nova going to number 1, Medical Mechanica says, and people get on Mike for being cult of the new. Now, I feel, Tom, sometimes the new stuff or the stuff we've played recently seems the strongest in our minds. I agree. Recency bias is a thing, and that will impact your decision-making on your top games. Beans and Dice Podcast, state your name, where you're calling from.
Hey, Carlos, Wayne. How's it going?
Wayne Kruger. How are you?
Hey, Ben. Doing good.
I am well.
Quiet.
I haven't seen you in a week. I will have to admit,
I know.
I haven't got much gaming in over this last week. Like maybe some real light stuff with the kids, like ay Dios mío, I have it on my barrel over there. It's the strategic abstract game where you're building. There we go. I played some Santorini.
I remember seeing it on the barrel last week when I was there. Yeah.
Yep. And what have you been up to since I last saw you?
Similar, playing a couple games with my kids, some light games, Ghost Fight and Treasure Hunters, and a couple other things. And then got a game of Pan Am last night with the wife and the girlfriend, friend that's a girl. And our Friday night Gloomhaven. So a little bit of gaming, but not too much. Been a pretty busy week. Speaking of video games, the wife and I are both addicted to Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Zero West. So both of us have been spending most nights playing video games instead of board gaming this past week.
Yeah, that's one good way to get things knocked out quietly, easily, is through the video game front. But I'm glad to see that you are still doing the Friday night Gloomhaven. I got an article here that popped up because I was hearing about Tom Vassell was talking about the digital implementation of Gloomhaven. He says he's making it so that he will never play regular Gloomhaven again. I mean, what do you think of that?
I can see that probably maybe for the big Gloomhaven, the big box, because there's just so much in that. But I think the Jaws of the Lion, I think that's good. I want to play the physical copy of that. There's so many video games that are D&D based, and I can play Baldur's Gate and things like that are D&D based. So I scratch that itch another way. We like the physical implementation of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. If we could finish with Jaws of the Lion and move on to the big box, and maybe because it would be easier and there's less upkeep. But at that point, there's a ton of other video games to play. I think there's a fine line, I think, between board games online and just a video game version of a board game.
Yeah, I liked Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. I didn't fall in love with Gloomhaven on its own. I think it's that beat you up nature of it, which you must be right in the midst of it right now, is getting stomped.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're on mission 5, so we're only 5 weeks. We play like 1 or 2 missions a week, and we're having fun with it. It's good, the two of us doing it. It's something that we can force ourselves to unplug from online and do something like that. That's part of the reason too I like the board game aspect, is unplug from online. There's tons of games out there to play, but going back to I was chatting with Mitch in the chat, like Arc Nova, I was high on it initially because so many of the Dice Tower were high on it. But then more and more reviews you read, it's like, you know, a 4-hour game has to have something that really grabs you. And it seems like either this game either grabs you or it drives you, or, you know, it doesn't. So it's very hit or miss. And it, like my biggest complaint is, I know I posted on Discord, is like, this game's not even really out yet. Like 3/4 of the backers haven't even got it yet, and it's already in the top 100 on the BGG list. That's crazy to me.
I mean, Gloomhaven was kind of like that. Like that thing hit the top, it rocketed, stayed there.
Yeah.
But for reasons, for good reasons.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see what time will tell if, you know, Arc Nova continues to climb and stays there. But just based on Mitch and some of the other reviews I've read, I'm kind of glad I didn't pre-order it back yet, type thing.
Well, I'm glad I did. It'll be at this table, so when it's time to try it out, I'm certain you'll be here.
Yeah.
You can be the third player, but I'm not going 4 players. We are not going 4.
Yeah. It seems like a kind of game you definitely don't want to do 4-player. But, you know, that's like the thing is, like, in that same 3 or 4 hour period, I could play Brass, Pan Am, you know, 2 other games probably, you know, making 4 different games of different themes in that 4-hour time period. And hopefully it doesn't take 4 hours. 3 hours is even pushing it. But
how long do your Terraforming Mars games take?
You know, I've only played it a couple of times, and I want to say maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and that's really pushing it.
That thing, bro. See, like Rob and I will go 3 or 4 hours in Terraforming Mars, and the thing is because we both get lost, and maybe this is why Mitch doesn't have a high opinion of the game, because his goal tends to be to push the end game trigger. Like he is the end game trigger dude. Like that's his job.
Yeah.
I am the sandbox, get lost in my little engine. Oh no, it's been 6 hours kind of guy. Like I'm just glad to see my little engine hum.
For me though, like if you're going to spend that long on a game, there has to be more story to it. That's why I probably like, you know, Gloomhaven mission that would take that long, or a Mansions of Madness mission that takes 2-3 hours, or a TI4 where it's this, you know, this space exploration and combat and interactions. There's not enough narrative to Terraforming Mars to make me want to drag it out longer than just running the engine and running it through to the end, you know?
Well, speaking of engines, what'd you think of Chocolate Factory?
I like that. It was good. That was a great little game. You know, it's interesting. It's on my list now. I'm kind of looking into it because you know, for me, it's not so much about price, it's about theme. You know, there's other games at that same price, you know, like, I don't know, Lost Ruins or Arnak, probably about the same price, at $50 range. So for me, it's because I have such a diverse game group of folks that are younger, older, male, female, hardcore gamers, lightcore gamers. I'm always looking for different themes. And I thought the theme of building...
Rococo hit well at your home, didn't it?
Huge. Rococo hit huge with the gamers, yeah.
So I feel like
and
just the fact that Rococo and Viticulture have all hit well with your game group, I would imagine that Chocolate Factory would fit in that niche too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it, you know, we like the D&D or the, you know, the swords and sorcery type games as well, but you can only play so many of them. You can only play so many Vikings or zombie games.
Oh, hey, slow down. Like you can play an unlimited amount of Viking games, okay?
Yes, you can. Yes, but you have to at least have some other games to sprinkle in there, I guess is what I'm saying. We like that. You know, like, you know, different themes is all. It's fun to play similar mechanisms with a different theme because it makes you think about it differently. And I really liked it, especially in Chocolate Factory, that conveyor belt theme. That was kind of cool. And you're trying to time when you activate stuff on the conveyor belt.
Well, Mitch and I are going to do a board game topic. We're going to talk about our thoughts of Chocolate Factory tonight when we do our podcast. And hopefully you guys can download it Sunday. You'll hear Mitch and I talk about Chocolate Factory as well as games and how we teach them. So I think that's going to be our two topics, how we like to teach games. I'm glad you enjoyed Chocolate Factory. I had a blast having you over last week and looking forward to having you back over here. I think next week might be the next time we see you.
Yep, next week sounds good, definitely. And I'm saying I did appreciate, I liked how Mitch taught Chocolate Factory, even in a digital sense. I think it's probably harder to teach it online the way we did it. And I thought, you know, the way he broke it down was pretty good. So I like that, you know, I think it'd be even easier to teach it in person because you'll be able to touch the materials, touch the track and stuff, and kind of play around with it. So I'm looking forward to picking that up.
I think I'll give him props, and we'll talk about it in the podcast, I'm sure, on when he taught it both times. He lost pretty handedly. Like, he lost.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he was doing that on purpose or if he was just trying out new strategies. But I thought it was good. It's always good to. That's usually what I do when I teach a game. Is I try to do a strategy that I've not done before, because especially when you play a game multiple times, you kind of fall into a strategy that you like to play. So when I teach a game, I generally try to break myself of that habit and try something completely different, shoot the moon, or do a crazy different strategy to see if it works. So I thought it was good. Yeah.
All right, well, glad to have actually met you in person for the first time. Sad that we're doing another game day when you're out of town.
Yeah, I know. Every time I'm always on travel, but I hope I will be at a game day sometime soon. Guaranteed.
All right, well, thanks again for calling and keeping the show going, man. We really appreciate it here.
Thanks. Anytime, man. Have a good night.
Good night. All right, it's Wayne Kruger from Lutz, Florida. That's where I'm from, where I currently live. Lutz, Florida. Small little suburb of Tampa. Wayne and Mitchell were in the chat talking about Arc Nova and asking about the game being solitaire. And so Wayne says, for a game that long, does it have a lot of player interaction like TI4? Else it's just 4 hours of multiplayer solitaire. And Mitch did confirm. He says, Wayne, there's not a ton of player interaction in Arc Nova, a little bit, but not enough for such a long game. So for y'all folks that are curious, Mitchell doesn't feel there's a lot of player interaction. I guess like Terraforming Mars-esque, there's not a lot of player interaction. And let's take a look what else is in the comments here. Sam says she wants to play Arc Nova. So I'm in. Samantha says Arc Nova. I'm in as well. I'm feeling it. Joe Garcia says Twitch all day. I know he is big in the techie world, so I'm going to have to listen to what Joe says and what Ness says with regards to Twitch. Maybe find a way to, like a Streamlabs or something that can stream to both Twitch and YouTube at the same time. Maybe I'll start with something like that as I wet my feet in that Twitch world. Ness confirms that, yes, it was Spirit Island. That was her 4-hour solo game. Yes. And I think that's a favorite of longtime caller Kyle out of Chicago, the Spirit Island game. Joe says he streams on Twitch. It's got a great board game section, so I think I need to expand my horizons. Raph says, yes, Horizon Forbidden West. So I believe that's video game world. It's kind of not my thing. Oh, we got a call coming in. Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
This is Ron from Atlanta.
My man.
How's it going tonight?
It's going well. It's going well. Flying solo. And listen, man, when I figure out, okay, I think I'm going solo tonight, I put in hours of like prep work, finding articles. I put a PowerPoint together. And because of how awesome you all are with the phone calls, I've gotten to maybe one slide. So it's like I don't even need to do that work because the people take care of it. So I appreciate you calling.
Right. Hey, I had something like I just started thinking about that I thought would be interesting intellectual exercise here. So I don't know how much you read as a pastime.
I do. I really enjoy my Kindle. It's great to read. I like the old school Kindle styles with the paperwhites, they call them. So it kind of looks like paper, feels like paper.
Right. Cool. Have you heard of Brandon Sanderson?
Negative.
Okay. So Brandon Sanderson finished the Wheel of Time series after Robert Jordan passed away. But he also has his own novels that he's writing, that he's famous for. He has a pretty good following. He's writing, I would say, the Stormlight Archive and the Mistborn series.
I've heard of the Stormlight Archives because I think they recently made a board game out of that. I'm trying to remember. Call to Adventure, is it?
Call to Adventure is Stormlight Archive.
Yes.
Right. There's a board game called Mistborn House War. And he wrote a trilogy of superhero novels called the first one's called Steelheart, I believe. But anyway, so a couple of days ago, he surprised fans by launching a Kickstarter because he wrote, I kid you not, 5 novels over the past 2 years, aside from what he's normally been working on, because the guy is just that insane. He can write just that much.
So this is no George R.R. Martin level of slowness.
No. He's on the opposite end of the spectrum. And so it's really fascinating. His Kickstarter's made like $19 million so far, which is, well, that's an insane number. So, like I said, he wrote 5 novels, 4 of which are part of this Kickstarter, where he's going to release one every quarter in 2023. And he also has a loot box to go along with that if you back at that level. So there's something coming out every month. And so the question I have, for you, is could something like this work in a board game arena where, you have, let's say you have like 3 board games that you've been designing in secret, and you're a popular game company. Let's say like maybe Stonemaier would do it, or don't roll your eyes at me, Simon. And they just say, hey, look, for the past, it will probably take longer than 2 years, right? And for the past 4 years, we've been working on these 4 games, and we're gonna release them next year. But get on this Kickstarter now. You'll get one every quarter. Plus, you can, at a certain level, you can, sign up for loot boxes. You can get some like board game extras every month.
Yeah, because I'm pulling up the article here. He raised $19 million in 2 days on that model.
Yes. Yep. Now he has a loyal fan base, and so you know how board gamers are.
So I guess let me ask, because there's an idea of kind of how that almost happened, right? With Eric Lang, Cool Mini or Not, Blood Rage, Rising Sun, Ankh, right? So, it was almost like a planned set of games. Yeah, had he published the idea in one shot and told you, hey, throw money at me, and you'll get one of these a year for the next 3 years, would people have paid all of that up front? What do you think?
With Eric Lang, I think so. I think if you take into account what he's released before Blood Rage,
to me, it was already a known quantity. Before Blood Rage, he was already a known quantity.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah.
Chaos in the Old World, Warhammer Invasion.
Yeah. Although I kind of feel like Blood Rage was the one that really
I think Blood Rage got him on the wider bandwagon stage, but I was an FFG-ophile. Like, I love Fantasy Flight games, and Eric was putting out some. And this is when they had the Warhammer license, and Eric Lang was doing a lot of that work, and it just monster stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just really fascinating, you know, and it's got to have its publisher a bit concerned. Because part of the reason why he's doing a Kickstarter as opposed to going through tour books, talking about the author, is that he can bundle a physical copy, ebook, and audiobook. And traditional publishers just don't have the option of doing that. But still, I just thought it was really cool. I think just a neat little thought exercise, like who could pull that off, or something like that off.
We got some comments in the chat here for you. We've got Mitchell says, I love Brando Sando. I guess that's a nickname there.
I've never heard him called that.
Must be a very small circle that calls him that. Let's see. Ness, who was a caller today, says, Ron, I taught you Night Parade of 1,000 Yokai at DTR Orlando. Hope to see you at DTR 2022.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's great.
She called in for Ness called in for the first time from New York today.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the name, but thank you for teaching me that game. I'd say. And I don't know if I'll be at Dice Tower, any Dice Tower this year. We'll see. That's to be determined.
And then Mitchell says he owns Mistborn House of War. Ness says Call to Adventure is great. Mitch says Reckoner's board game is based on Brando Sando also.
Yes. That's a game I couldn't remember the name of.
And then Ness says, with regards to your idea, Ron, Ness says, I think maybe if there were micro games with one mechanism or theme to tie them together, that it could work, like that bundled idea.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then Wayne says, isn't Queen Games doing that with the City Games? I believe Queen Games does have. Is it a bookshelf series that they're doing? But I believe Queen does something like that. Wayne says the Feld collection.
No.
Stefan Feld himself.
Okay. I don't know if I've actually, this might be blasphemy, have played the Felds.
I don't think I have either. The whole Stefan Feld point salad like thing is not known to me because I don't think I've done it either. But I'm not a huge Euro gamer. Like that's Rob's domain.
Yeah, same here.
I'm like what Ness said earlier with regards to, theme, right? The connection of the theme to really draw the game in.
Yeah. So the books, 3 of them are in Brandon's grand narrative called The Cosmere, and one of them is not related to the Cosmere at all. But they're all supposed to be their own work. They're not part of any of his existing series that he's working on. And so I think the connection is going to be very thin. So, like, obviously, if it's a series of games, let's say I'm releasing 3 games over the next 3 years, and it all has this theme this mechanic to tie them together. I guess it would be similar, but I was wondering if there was, maybe you got like a complex rolling right, like Hadrian's Wall 1 year, and then you have like an American style game, and then you have a Euro game, but they all have something in common that's not like the theme or something like that. Anyway.
It'd be like Uwe Rosenberg, right? It'd be a polyomino with another polyomino game and another like tile lane polyomino game.
Yeah.
I just don't. The one reason I think, like, I struggle to think that it would work is, I feel like with Kickstarter, they can make so much more money off of like that one game stretched out, right? Like all those stretch goals. And if you bundle 3 of them together, like what was it? Trains, planes, and automobiles. Remember, I think they bundled up those games at one point. You know, you're really only gonna be able to put in like a base set, because if you stretch each of those out, that cost of that Kickstarter would be insane.
Yeah. So yeah, it might not be feasible because
small box game maybe. I see that.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh man, good topic, good idea.
All right, I'm gonna hang up now. Thanks for letting me call.
You're the last call of the night. You got us to the 10 o'clock hour. I want to thank you for calling in. Wrap us up. Tell us what you got going on with your channels and where the folks can find more, since you're that last call.
Well, you can find me on the Dice Tower when I record something for Board Game Breakfast, which I'm working on a video to have up soon for that. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram at Ron Talk Tabletop, on Twitter at Ron Talk TV Top, or also on Facebook at Ron Talk Tabletop. Or you can find me on YouTube at Ron Frazier, but that's mostly RPG content on the channel. So just wanted to give a heads up for that.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Well, we always appreciate you here on the show, and we look forward to hopefully getting up to Georgia to be able to see you somehow. We will figure it out. If you can't make it down to Florida for Dice Tower, we'll find a way to meet up with you, maybe even on my way up to St. Louis for the Stonemaier Design Day. Find a way to get up there and just have some lunch or something.
All right.
Have a good night. Thanks for calling.
All right, thanks.
Bye. And that wraps us up, folks. Wow, I got all nervous because I was all solo. I mean, I set up a PowerPoint and everything, and I got to like one slide, so that's about it. At this point, we will be back next week, Thursday night. Hopefully we'll have Wayne with us and William. I'm hoping to have a full 4 at the game table next week, if we can make that happen with Rob, William, Wayne, myself. Other than that, we've got the podcast dropping this Sunday. Check it out. Download it. It's the audio podcast on whatever audio streaming system you decide to use. Rob's out of town, so on behalf of Rob, myself, and the Beans and Dice crew, we want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing. Tell your friends what we're doing here at the Beans and Dice. Call-in show Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern every Thursday night. I'm Carlos, and thanks for watching, y'all. Have a good night.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.